Anywho, Masterclass 109. Thank you for joining us. Housekeeping. Chris, do we have some housekeeping before we get started?
Yes, we do. All right,
Go
everyone.
ahead, take
So
her away.
this is a crazy time of year, but like in a good way.
The best
And
kind of way. Yeah.
there's a few things that are cooking right now that are really exciting. So I'm going to share them with you. Our Black Friday
Cooking like a
sale
turkey.
is on right. Well, yeah, okay. That's all relative. That is pretty exciting. That's a good point. Thank you.
Ah, that was
But
so bad.
also, we have a Black Friday sale on right now. So if
You.
you are considering buying a camera, this is the time to do it. The deal will
Yeah, it
never
is.
get better than this. It's a
No,
massive camera
it's not lying.
discount, and then you get free free tours or free processing. It's 10 free
Yeah,
or iGuide Instant for several months for free
yeah, it's
if you're
insane.
in the US. If you're in the
It's
US, that is the craziest deal ever. This will never happen again.
no,
Even if you're not getting the camera deal, iGuide Instant is still a crazy deal. You should still use it.
yeah,
Um, but if you're in Canada, you get 10 standard, I think, free up to 3,000 square feet. So, I mean, that's like huge camera discount, free tours. Like, that's crazy. And then also, we have two new products. First one is iGuide Instant, and that is it's US only, unfortunately, Canadians. But it's crazy cool. Go to our website, check that out. But then
we
also,
should
if
try
you
that one.
happen to be insurance and restoration and you're here at this, we have something called Instant Sketch, which is, if you're not in insurance, this won't make any sense to you, but it's an integration with Xactimate, the software used to make insurance claims, and you can automatically have your iGuide data sent to them and drafted really quickly. So, or sketched, I should say. So that's really cool. So in order to take advantage of that, on the off chance that you are in insurance, you need to sign up. So you have to contact, who do they contact?
Support,
Support.
support ticket. Yep,
And ask to have that hooked up. It's free to have it hooked up.
yep,
So that's awesome. Yeah, so those are the three big things off the top.
yep. I just put in the link for creating a
Oh,
support
yeah.
ticket. I'll try and find the link for I got instant. I can't.
The chat is great. Why do we disable it for other webinars?
I'm not sure. It can be if there's just one person doing it, it can be really hard to
Oh,
if
because
it's a
there's a
really
lot of,
active chat.
yeah, gotcha. Well,
It
there's
can
two
be a
of
lot
us.
of
We can always
chit
turn.
chat, and then we might lose. Lots of people put questions in the chat instead of in the Q&A, and then they get missed, even though we tell people.
Oh,
So
well,
that's
I'm
generally why.
flexible. I don't know how you're feeling today, but if you guys want to put questions in the Q&A, go ahead. If you want to put them in the chat, I'm not going to give you a hard time. It's all good.
We
It's
just might
Thanksgiving
miss them. That's
somewhere.
the point.
We might.
I'll try not to. I'll try and keep track of it.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
All right, take it away.
All right.
Tell us about how to get the most out of our iGuide camera, Chris.
Okay, so the whole point of today's webinar is to address a problem and give you a potential solution. So the problem is faced by everyone measuring or photographing houses forever for all time. And it's how, like, regardless of technology, but it's also specific to iGuide as well. And it's the problem is that you never necessarily know exactly how much you need to capture, but you really want to capture exactly what you need and nothing more. And so trying to figure that out and juggling, your time versus having that extra data as a safety net can be a challenge. So I'll give you a couple examples because you're probably like, what the hell are you talking about? So when you're shooting regular photos of a house, you could spend all day, shoot 1,000 photos if you want, but you're really only going to probably use between 20 and 50 that you're going to edit to send, to the agent for listing purposes. So the goal is to get as close to that 20 to 50 as possible with a little extra just in case. So you don't have to spend all day at the house. You're in, you're efficient, and then you're out. So shooting an iGuide is very much like that. You have the option to make as many scans as you wish. Because they're not limited for most things. That means that we encourage you to shoot more sometimes, but the goal would be to shoot exactly what you need and nothing more, rather than spend lots of extra time at the property. Anyway,
Exactly.
so the problem is that you got to figure out what you need and what you don't need. So the whole point of this webinar is try to give you a sense of what you need and what you don't need. But, because we're cool, and yeah, I said it. If you say it, it doesn't make you cool though. Shoot. Oh well. Because we're trying to be cool, we're trying to give you a sense of how this can be dynamic. So one of the strengths of the iGUIDE is that you can shoot more or you can shoot less depending on what it is that you're trying to achieve. So what I'm
Yes.
going to do is I'm going to run you through very simply over the next 20 minutes or so. So this is super simple. 3 different types of capture processes. So these are like capture guidelines. Requirements was too strong a word. We shouldn't have put that in the title. Guidelines is much better. But 3 separate sort of workflows or sets of guidelines that can help you shoot what you need without doing too much or too little. So problem, it's kind of hard to figure out what it is you need. Solution, we're going to try to give you some guidelines.
Well, and to be fair, sometimes you don't realize you have a problem until after you have shot the property.
This is very true.
So we're trying to help save your lives,
And then the
help
reverse
save
of that
time.
is sometimes not out of fear, but like out of concern. Sometimes you'll over capture,
Yeah.
and that's
And then
not necessary. Like
exactly.
in fact, can actually make your life harder in a couple of workflows. So we'll go over that first. So, you ready to jump into her?
I'm ready.
That was a good like intro, I thought.
Yeah. This was pretty, it was a pretty meaty one. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll edit this part out, but that part was great. Okay, 3 workflows. Number 1, we're going to talk about, just because we have to, is the conventional sort of get in, get out as quickly as possible, minimalist workflow, very common in residential real estate sales. Okay, so this workflow looks a bit like this. You go into a property and you capture every space like one at a time with like one scan. You walk into the kitchen gets one scan, the dining room gets one scan, every room gets one scan, and then to kind of cover your butt, you'll scan hopefully things like closets and any weird nook or cranny that maybe didn't get covered in that one room scan. So the absolute bare minimum, I'm going to use the term coverage for this. The absolute bare minimum coverage is enough would allow you to gather enough data in that case to be able to draw a floor plan accurately, so you can get your floor plan, and then allow you to, picture each space so that someone can see it, on the tour. So if they want to see the kitchen, they can see the kitchen. There's no options here. It's just like you got the one scan. So that kind of minimalist workflow is very, very popular, and it's not wrong. It's not wrong. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because that means you have more time in a day to shoot something else or shoot, I don't know, video or hang out with the homeowner and
take photos,
chat about stuff. I mean,
pet
whatever. Or take
animals.
photos.
Yeah.
Actually, petting animals is pretty, that's really good. That's a good point. Glad you said that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Or take a really long lunch. I don't know, whatever you do, you right. So that type of workflow is perfectly acceptable for example, standard iGUIDE packages. And the reason I say that is that in a standard iGUIDE package, you have obviously a floor plan and you have visuals, and it creates exactly what is needed for the result that you're looking for, which is to make a virtual tour that someone's going to use to view a property, and floor plans that will have accurate square footage for listing property. Awesome. So that's the simplest, most minimalist workflow. So now we're going to ratchet it up a couple times in residential real estate, and then we're going to jump outside of that. So let's suppose that you want to, so the guidelines for that kind of capture would be, one space, every room, including spaces like closets, or one scan rather, and then make sure that you've got the coverage you need to get those floor plans and then visually depict the property.
And hold on, before anybody comes to like assassinate me, before I let you move on, we still want to have line of sight. Unless you are well versed in aligning your own data, or you know what you're doing, which lots of people do, especially in residential real estate. After a period of time, you don't care and you are totally cool manipulating the data and moving the pieces into place. If you do not have line of sight, it will not auto align. The data won't auto align, and you will have to manually align it. So this can be done, but if you are not sure how to get one scan per room and line of sight and get aligned data, then take more. Don't nobody come for us and tell us that you can do one scan per room and it's going to auto align and be totally fine. There are asterisks with this. The technology is not perfect in terms of the alignment tool, knowing all of the things. It's not that intuitive yet.
So that's a really good point. I am going to focus mostly on the deliverables, but the process will it's just about time. It's about saving time on site. So shooting a certain way will obviously help you spend less time on site doing things like alignment if you're following guidelines to get best results, one of them being maintain line of sight. So in the super
link the article.
Yes, put all the links in there. People love links. Not that link. That link's gross. It's like
I know it's so long. I don't know why it's so long.
Other links are great. What are we talking about?
You were going to move on to the next. We're talking about deliverables, and I think you're going to move on to the next thing.
Yeah. So the minimalist workflow, we've established that. Okay. So you can't go under that, because if you do that, then we can't make an iGUIDE out of incomplete data.
No.
We can, but we certainly don't want to, and it slows the process down for reasons.
We're just making stuff up at that point. It's not going to be accurate.
So we're going to ratchet it up one. So if you're going to do premium floor plans and you want something that's a bit more immersive, again, this we're playing to the strength of iGUIDE here, and that you can do all of these workflows, and none of them are wrong. All of these sets of guidelines are all correct. They're just, you're going to get different results. So I'm just going to keep harping on that this whole time. So the next logical step as you progress toward more detail, so something like premium floor plans, would be to capture data that really helps gather those makes those premium floor plans accurate. So this is a fancy way of saying, instead of in the kitchen just doing one scan, maybe do another one up a little bit higher so that you can get the exact positioning, or the drafters can get the exact positioning for the sinks and the faucet and the appliances. If you only shoot one scan on one side of the island, the other side of the island might have appliances that can't be seen. So for a premium floor plan, those wouldn't be included. Can't include a wine fridge if you can't see it. So that means that if you're going to shoot a more detailed floor plan, you want to be capturing more scans. How many more? Well, it's still mostly one per room, but in cases where you have that extra data, maybe there's a bar or something, you might shoot another scan behind the bar to get the mini fridge and the sink. You might shoot another scan in the kitchen to get the dishwasher, So anywhere where you've got fixtures, appliances, or things that appear on premium floor plans, you might want to do some extra scans or work a little harder to get that data so that your floor plans are accurate. So this isn't related to premium floor plans. It's related really more to the experience of using the iGUIDE. But when people are using the iGUIDE, they often transition between floor plan navigation and visual navigation. So floor plan navigation, when you click on dots, it's pretty easy. It works kind of with everything. But with visual navigation, it can be very jarring to click on a dot and fly through a bunch of walls. Like, it's gross. I think it's cool, but not everybody does. So that means that if you want to create that type of experience, you're probably going to scan more. Scanning more means usually putting scans between rooms. So instead of just scanning the living room, the dining room, you might scan the living room, then in between the living room and the dining room, and then the dining room, so that
like
the
a transition.
Exactly. So the effect would be smoother transitions between spaces. It's especially useful in things like hallways, where, strictly speaking, you don't need to do a scan in front of like every doorway. But if you don't do a scan in front of every doorway, that means that the scans in the rooms won't have line of sight. So you'll fly through walls and it's a weird experience. So that's not for floor plans, but the extra scans in that case would definitely benefit the visual experience. One of the suggestions that we make is that you add extra scans at like transitions, essentially, or in areas where you want people to see things. So just like with the premium floor plan, if there's no scan in the kitchen showing that wine fridge and dishwasher and all that stuff on the other side of the island, you got to put the scans in there so people can just look at them, because people want to see
Mhm.
that stuff. They want to see like,
The features.
the knobs and stuff on like the stove and like what kind of faucet it is and things like that. So that means usually extra scans to support those features visually so people can just see them.
Yep.
Does that make sense? So you're still maintaining line of sight. You're still creating one scan per space, but you're adding extra scans in transitions and to show features.
Yeah. When people ask us about a walkthrough, it's flexible. You get to create your own walkthrough experience. Either you're leaping or you're walking. You have the option of doing both, but not required. It's so much flexibility. So much flexibility. All right, what's next?
I'm
What's
going to share my screen.
up a
Okay, so
notch?
all that stuff we just talked about in 20
Hmm.
minutes, I thought that was going to be quicker actually, was just conventional, just run of the mill stuff. Like
Yeah,
that's how you should be doing it right now.
yeah.
But we have new stuff. Okay, we're in new territory now. So we have two AI, well, more than two, but two, what I'm going to talk about right now, AI generated things, products, we'll say. One of them is called iGUIDE Preview. That's available for everyone. And iGUIDE Preview is essentially like an AI drafted iGUIDE before it's like manually
Touched by our
drafted.
drafters. Yep.
That's right. And there's iGUIDE Instant, which is just an AI drafted floor plan straight up with no manual drafting at all. So the AI, I mean, I half suspect you've all used AI in some way. So I'm just going to say it. What you put in affects what you get out. So, you know, I don't know. So basically, and sometimes it's quirky. We're going to go through a few of the suggestions, but what I want for you all to do is try to get the best results out of the AI. Like if you've paid for a standard iGUIDE, you get the preview for free. So you can publish it early if it's any good. But depending on the data that you put in, it may or may not be good. So the AI is directly affected by a few things. I'm going to load up an article if I can find it. Where did it go? Show you. Oh yeah, that's fine. Here, let me try this. No. Okay, can you guys see this? Or can you see this, Kelly?
Jess.
iGUIDE Instant Surveying Guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is an article on our help support desk. What is this called?
Our help center.
Help center. That sounds cool. Like,
It's just so people don't get confused. It isn't the support desk. It's
right.
the help center. Yes.
I knew that. It's just a lot for old people like me.
Yes, I know.
Change is hard, okay?
So much information. Well, we do have a lot of this is like bookmark this, guys. This is one of the best things you can have.
This is good
friend.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to oversell it, but this is great stuff. So
it's great stuff.
There's a lot of overlap here with just regular like scanning, regular stuff capture, but specifically for AI, there are a few quirks. So I'm going to pick them out. So some of the stuff's really obvious. Obviously, you want the data to be aligned as well as possible all the time anyway. But obviously with AI, it's what you put in is going to directly affect what you get out. So it's extra important to make sure your alignment is correct. So
yes.
strictly speaking, it's a capture thing. Like while you're on site, obviously,
yeah,
when you're doing that alignment, use the new snap feature because it's amazing if the manual alignment doesn't work. But
yes, this means upgrade your firmware if you haven't already.
Oh yeah, we should be telling people to do that. If you haven't upgraded your firmware, do it because the new firmware is like chef's kiss good. That snap thing is awesome. I absolutely love it. The which I won't describe now. Just go. We did it. Didn't we do a webinar on that? Robert? Yeah, we did a whole webinar on that.
Yeah.
Like 90% sure we did. I don't know.
It's fuzzy, but you know what? You can go check the recordings.
Alignment is really important, and in order to get good alignment, there's a few things you can do. Obviously, you can like align the data yourself using that cool snap feature. But what I was really getting at was the frequency of scans. So maintaining line of sight becomes way more important when we're talking about AI. So let me just unpack that for a second. So the way I can't show you, but oh yeah, I can talk about that. The way Planix works is that the automatic alignment,
This
okay?
feels like infomercial.
No, that's what we're here for, okay? That every plug, okay, is good. It goes in my what is it? My permanent record every time I
Ooh,
yeah.
shut up.
Anyway, every scan that gets aligned by Planix is going to be better aligned than what you can do manually. And that's tough to hear. But the computer, I've accepted this myself. It took a while. It's better than me. So when I'm aligning data manually and I'm putting it in place and I click, I'm very sloppy. Like I'm not that good at it. But when the computer does it, it's like incredible. It's like perfect. So that little difference is almost not even noticeable to like a person, but it makes a big difference later when the AI is trying to figure this stuff out. Because if it's perfect and the AI doesn't have to work as hard and you get better results. Um, by how
Whispering.
much it totally varies. It's property by property. But from our experimentation, we found that if we decrease the distance between scans, or rather increase the frequency of scans throughout a property, auto alignment, generally speaking, has an easier time with diminishing returns. If you do too many, it doesn't make any difference. But if you do more, um, generally speaking, you're going to get better results on the back end when it finally makes a thing because there's more data connecting one scan to another. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So alignment has a lot to do with scan frequency as well. There's a few other
Yeah.
suggestions here. Did that make sense, what I just said?
Yes. Well, it did to me, unfortunately. That doesn't mean it made sense or not.
No one's complaining in the chat, so it's probably
I
fine.
know. Let us know if you're confused, guys.
Um, so they've suggested camera height here and keep it consistent, and that makes sense, right? If you change the camera height from one scan to the next, you're going to be capturing different details from one scan to the next. So
Yeah.
you have to change the camera height from time to time. There's nothing wrong with that, obviously, but keeping it pretty consistent throughout the house is a good strategy for getting. And we tell you to do that anyway because it's faster, but it's a good strategy for getting pretty consistent data throughout that aligns well. So we're kind of coming back to alignment on this one. Um, Keeping your camera level, that seems pretty reasonable across the board. Avoid capturing individuals or obstructions. Minimize movement during shoot to prevent motion blur. All right, those are all very reasonable. There's one that I wanted to point out specifically. Windows and doors. Okay, so windows and doors are funny. When you capture a space, we often don't think of all the things that we're capturing because it's a lot. So when you're capturing a space, you're obviously the lidar data is capturing, like the walls. Everybody gets the walls, right? And the perimeter of a space is obviously has holes in it, doors and windows. But doors and windows are kind of complicated. Like they have a very distinct start and stop on either side, start and stop points. And you want to make sure that those are very obviously visible to get really good results out. So the drafters are excellent at figuring that out. They're basically wizards.
They're ninjas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're ninja wizards.
They're ninja
The
wizards.
AI, it does the best it can with what it has. The
Mhm.
drafters do as well, obviously. The AI is not technically a ninja wizard.
No.
So that means that you want to make sure that your scans show where windows start and stop and any details in those windows if you can. The A couple things that aren't explicitly mentioned here are coverage. So we've noticed the AI really struggles when there are too few scans in large spaces. So even if a large space, fairly obviously has a perimeter defined when you look at it, it might be helpful to add a few extra scans so that there's complete data showing that perimeter. We've noticed that when there are too few scans, the AI just literally won't draw walls. So, and because there's missing data, obviously. So that's another reason to improve frequency. And then I think these are all pretty standard. Line of sight. Yeah.
Oh, every 13 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool number. Avoid shooting too closely to complex features. Oh, that's a cool one. I didn't. Read that one earlier, but okay, sure. Capture extra shots from a distance to ensure accurate representation. Okay, that's pretty reasonable. So anyway, to sum up, AI scanning requires that you get the data that you input into the system to be as clean as possible and to be comprehensive enough that the AI can figure everything out. So it shows very clearly doors, windows, perimeters, stairs, things like that, because the AI is not as good at fudging it.
Mhm.
Okay, does that all make sense?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to add in some sort of note about kind of larger pieces of furniture, like a fireplace or a TV. Sometimes if the LiDAR is hitting at that exact angle, the AI, actually it's gotten so much better. We saw earlier versions of it and it was thinking that those things were walls. So you wouldn't necessarily have a wall behind it. So I think it's done way better. We've come a long way. We continue to work on AI. It's not like, oh, we launched AI and now we're done. It's a constant.
All finished.
we're, we're we're done, guys. We're moving on. No, we're constantly trying to improve it and teach it things so it can be better and so that you guys have a better experience with it. But yeah, just kind of keep those things in mind um, in terms of look at the data like on your device if you're on mobile or if you're on a tablet or whatever you're looking, like just check the data, look at what you're shooting. I know that maybe not everybody intuitively does that, but you absolutely should. Your experience shouldn't simply be clicking the button and moving on and clicking the button. You need to be looking at the data that you've captured, make sure it's aligned, make sure it makes sense. If you notice a
Absolutely.
line that's kind of sitting in the middle of like a big lamp that like covered the corner of a wall, just capture around it. Just, it's really, this whole class is just about be aware of what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. And that does take a little bit of practice, but we're hoping to get you a head start in thinking about it.
Cool. Okay, we're getting there. We're almost done. So what I'm proposing is that there's a certain way to capture for, sort of like, I guess, standard premium iGuides, and there's a certain way to capture for iGuide Instant, where AI generated floor plans are a thing. And there's also a certain way to capture for some of our more premium, not premium, our add-ons, I should say. So we have two different types of add-ons, which result in two different types of extra sort of like file outputs. So one of them is for insurance and restoration. So it's an ESX file for Xactimate. And the other is what's called a DWG file or a drawing file for something like AutoCAD. So when you're shooting for residential real estate, or you're shooting for AI for residential real estate, it doesn't matter what the purpose is, but you're often trying to show a home and you're trying to capture floor plans that help people understand the space. But when you're creating one of these add-ons, they have very specific purposes in terms of interpreting the property later for either creating an insurance claim based on that data, or making design changes or applying for permits based on that data. So generally speaking, if you're already in these industries, you already know this, but if you're not, I'm going to tell you, you would capture a significantly more data for something like the final DWG output than you would for just a standard iGuide for residential real estate. So we haven't, well, to the best of my knowledge, we haven't published these yet, but we actually do have some suggestions for capturing data for to create really robust DWG files for AutoCAD. And it really means taking that coverage and thinking of it in an even more complex way, if you will. So it's everything I keep saying just involves taking more scans. I feel like is the the trend here. But
Yeah.
it's true. But then that's kind of the case, right? So
Yeah.
creating that DWG output, if you're not familiar, involves you just shoot an iGuide. But if you capture more data, it means that the final output will be easier to make and more accurate. So there's a couple interesting things here. So when capturing for a DWG, we suggest, again, these are just guidelines, they're not like rigid requirements, multiple scans per space, not just one, multiple scans. And that often makes a lot of sense later on because in that industry, all of those industries, architecture, engineering, construction, often measurement post scan is really critical. So that means using
Yes.
those measure tools on the viewer is awesome. So beyond just the DWG output, it's also valuable because you can use measure mode 3 if you have multiple scans in a space to measure anything you want in 3D. So multiple scans per space, not just one. And then for a DWG, often you want to be changing the camera height quite frequently to capture as many details as you can get. So for example, in a kitchen environment, one scan to get the lower cupboards, one scan to get the backsplash, and one scan to get the upper cupboards is completely reasonable. But like, for a standard iGUIDE, you wouldn't probably bother to do
Nobody
that
needs that. Yeah.
unless you have lots of time or hate lunch.
It's always lunchtime.
I'm just always thinking about lunch. It's kind of my thing. I'm really good at lunch. That's why I say that.
Okay.
So it's on my list of things I think I'm good at. It's a long list. What was the next one? Camera height. Yeah, okay, got that. Adjust camera height to measure basement windows to capture LiDAR measurements. So when you're scanning with the camera, the LiDAR is being reflected off things being measured. So in a basement, often the windows are above the LiDAR. So that means that in order to get really accurate, positioning for windows, sometimes that means raising the camera up so the LiDAR hits it. Makes sense, right? Scanning windows and doors very precisely, as in putting the camera really very closely to windows and doors to get the either side, and then scanning on one side and then walking through the transition, maybe even scanning in the middle and then scanning on the other side. We recommend that you do that as well. So that means instead of doing, so we're taking, what would have been one scan and we're suggesting that you do 3 instead,
Yeah.
not even, maybe 0 scans. You don't even need it if you're doing it for residential real estate because you can shoot one in the room and just walk to the doorway. And then also, oh yeah, so you actually see it as number 7. It's scanning at thresholds.
Yep.
I skipped ahead a bit. But we also recommend exterior scanning. So that's not something that you would ever, I mean, you can do it for any iGUIDE. Obviously, it's perfectly happy outdoors when it's not raining. But scanning the exteriors is really, more about like just seeing what the outside looks like rather than actual measurements. But in this case, for an accurate DWG file, it's very helpful to have exterior measurements of a property. And the Planix camera can measure outside perfectly fine without any really real issues. So there's a lot of commonalities between all of these. So maintaining line of sight between scans is like in everything. It's like our whole reason for living sometimes. Stairs are something that comes up a lot in general because people often wonder, regardless of what they're scanning for, if they should scan stairs. So we often recommend, technically you just need to have them be in a pano. That's the minimum. But we recommend if you want a good experience, you put one at the top, one at the bottom.
Yes.
But in this case, for a DWG, helpful to have them on landings as well. So that's an extra bonus. And then this is a funny one. I have Roman drew me a whole sketch. Bay windows. So bay windows are complicated and weird. So because so for a DWG, we recommend that you shoot like obviously next to the bay window so we can see the dimensions, but then also shoot above and below it. What it was? Yeah, above and below. So that they can figure out exactly where it's positioned and its depth and all its weird features.
Cool.
And then the last one on here is, you have to be really diligent about moving things aside in closets and getting the back walls. It's not that you don't have to do that normally, but for that extra precision, it's critical for a DWG, right? If you're designing for that space, it can't be guessing.
Yeah, and that includes even sometimes those little like nook closets that are like for towels or like toiletries and stuff that are built into the walls. Just as many details as you can is helpful.
Exactly. Okay, so we're almost done. So I'm going to summarize, and then you're all free. So what we're trying to communicate, I guess, is that if you are, if you want to streamline your workflow, save some time during a day, get a better output, make better tours. There's lots of reasons why you might want to do this. It's a good idea. We suggest that you capture what you need for your final output. So really, it's to meet the needs of your client, whoever's paying you to capture, um, and tailor your workflow such that you're capturing not only what you need, but approximately what you need, so you're not wasting time and effort. But then also so that you get the final output that is ideal. So for a regular iGUIDE, you need probably fewer scans. By regular, I mean standard or premium iGUIDE. So standard iGUIDE is pretty forgiving. Premium, you're going to need a few more scans. With AI drafted iGUIDEs, you got to make sure that what you put in is really good, so that what you get out is really good. And then if you're capturing for something like a DWG and ESX add-on, you're going to want to capture significantly more data than you would for a regular iGUIDE, because that will translate into a better output on the back end.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think we'll plug again one more time, line of sight, so important. And number two, look at the data. Just look at the screen. If it doesn't look like a puzzle, like a proper puzzle, you probably don't have enough data, or you don't have aligned data. So keeping track of that while you're on site is going to save you time in the long run, because if you don't have enough data or you've missed something, it's going to mean a back and forth conversation between support and drafting, and it may even mean you need to go back or you're sacrificing some accuracy. So yes, you might be in a habit, or you might not have a habit at all, but make it a habit to check the data. Always check the data. Also, we do have a whole class on advanced measurements. So we didn't talk about that today, but you do have to place the camera in specific ways for advanced measurements to be as accurate as possible. If that's what you're going for, that's not what this class was about, but I highly recommend you check out go iGUIDE.com/masterclass. Rob and Andrew did a whole class on advanced measurements, and it's not so different in terms of the information. It's basically just keep in mind what you want to be measuring after the fact, so that you have proper visuals. And this is going to be important for insurance damage, construction, stuff like that. So just keep that in mind as well. But yeah, this was a great class. This was very helpful. Lots of helpful information, Chris. Thanks for sharing.
You did a lot. You're very welcome. We did a lot of talking. Does anyone have any questions?
It's been quiet today. Everybody's thinking about turkey.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Everybody's eating delicious foods.
I know.
Or not yet. It's only 2:42. Turkey's still not.
When is too early? When is too early?
There's no such thing. Turkey for breakfast.
Yeah. Well, if you have it ready, right?
If you have questions, put them in the Q&A or in the chat. Actually, I didn't even check that now. There's no questions.
I did.
About anything at all. Not personal questions, not today, but not Thanksgiving, but like anything else is fine.
So like the anything wasn't actually valid. Okay, got it.
Okay, so you did post links? Yes, you did.
Yep, okay, cool. I did. I shared links for line of sight. Help.youriGuide.com is our help center. Support.youriGuide.com. If you want to get instant sketch set up, let us know. If you're in the insurance industry, we'll get you set up with that. Yeah.
Okay, that's it. We're done then. That was best.
We have one question.
Yes, I was like, we're not gonna have any questions.
So sad. Jade is asking, can tags only be added in the app while capturing, not possible during Stitch?
So correct. So well, sort of. So you can add tags on site, obviously using the survey app, and then in Stitch you can't add tags.
But correct? You can add tags in the portal.
But you can go to the portal and add tags. Yes. So, yeah. So if you want to add tags after the fact, you go to the portal, find your iGUIDE, click the blue edit button. On the left, you'll see, I forget what it's called, tag editor or something. Yeah, and then once you're in there, you can add tags.
So this is like a yes/no question. Right. Tags can be added while on site and after the fact, but not in Stitch. No tag editing in Stitch.
it's funny. What I find is that so real-time tagging while you're on site is awesome. It is so much
Mhm.
better because then you don't have to find the images and put them in and doing that stuff. But what I find quite frequently is that I'm in a bit of a hurry when I'm doing real-time tagging. So sometimes I'll be, so we were at a house recently and they had a pet dining area. And I'm like trying to write pet dining area and my thumbs are like all old and like I can't type it properly. And so I'm like, I'll forget it. So I just pet something. And then so I knew that I kind of phoned it in. So I just went into the portal afterward and I just cleaned up the tags and made sure that they were all, like the photos are there or whatever I put in, but some of the titles weren't perfect. And then you can pick tag colors. And often when I'm on site, I don't know, like I'm just
Fair.
guessing. So
Yeah.
later, what I'll do is I'll go and I'll change the tags so that they're kind of like cool. Like all of the ones relating to heat will be red and all of the water ones will be, I don't know, whatever. Like, all the electrical ones are yellow. Sometimes I'll put in thermostats and smart switches and stuff, which is pretty neat. Yeah, real-time
Mhm.
text is awesome. So
Yeah, it is.
yeah, you can totally add those after in the portal.
Yes, you can.
Okay, now we're done. That was our last question.
Now we're done.
We're
Yeah.
done.
All
Okay,
right.
have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving if you're in America. Um,
2 weeks till our next masterclass.
what's it on?
iGUIDE viewer will be walking you through all of the things. Maybe you know it all, maybe you don't, but make sure you join.
Okay, I'm in.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.